Welcome, everyone. I'm John Ryan. This is Manny's Irish Pub Sports Betting Show. Sorry, we're running a little late. Traffic was causing the problem on my end, so my apology for that. But I am pleased to have my longtime buddy Rob Vino of Wager Talk. We share one distinction that we are back-to-back number one rated NBA handicappers. Him at Wager Talk, and formerly myself at Sports Memo. So we might have something to say about the finals. And I'm also very pleased to have Melissa, aka Sox Addict. I was going to introduce her, Rob, as we got an addict in the house, but then I thought maybe Tony Finn would want to come on the show or something. But seriously, that's all kidding around with Tony Finn. And I wasn't sure. We actually have our fourth guest here, Kevin Thomas. Welcome to the show, Kevin. We just got started, actually. You're perfectly on time. Kevin's a member of the Predictive Playbook team and also over at sportsmemo.com. Two of the sites that you definitely want to get to, including Wager Talk for all your handicapping needs. If you go to those three sites, I'm sure you probably won't need too much more than what these guys are providing. So we're going to start this off with a Major League Baseball angle for tomorrow. I don't have the graphic. I promise to do better the next time, but it's an over. And it has to do with what I call an anemic hitting baseball team, Melissa, Rob, and Kevin. And Kevin, you're a Phillies fan, so you might not like this play tomorrow with the Washington Nationals, but I'm going to say it anyway. We're going to bet over with a home team like the Washington Nationals, averaging 2.75 or fewer extra base hits per game on the season. One of the Oakland A's can match that category, by the way. After a game, they hit 4 or more home runs in one of the two last games. I believe Washington has off today. So that it would be the previous game they hit 4 more home runs. So you would think a losing record team like Washington would be regressing. It's not. This system has gone 39-13, 75% to the over. This year it's 3-2 so far, 28-13 over the last 3 seasons, and 114-90 since 1997. And if it's a divisional matchup, it goes even higher. It's actually 80% winners over the last 5 years, betting the over in the Washington Nationals Phillies game tomorrow. So we're going to come back to baseball, and we can dissect that, and you can, abuse me that I should not be betting that game, but that will be one of my bets tomorrow for sure. I may even go to the window tonight. Real quick, the takeaways from Game 7. I'll start it off. I had stumbled upon 2001 NBA Finals, Sixers, Lakers. Allen Iverson, Robert Horry, Kobe, Shaq, the whole crew, right? And I found myself enjoying that game immensely. You know why? Because the refereeing was good. They let them play. It was physical as hell. There was no flops. There was no players arguing, face-to-face with the refs and throwing their arms up in the air. It was actually like a breath of fresh air. And the takeaway I have from Game 7 is that there's no way we can even take anything away from Melissa's Red Sox defeating New York Yankees in 2004. In my book, that is the biggest come from behind that will never be surpassed. I can't even think of a situation that would be better. I think, if anything, the Celtics were the number 2 seed. They should have never been down 3-0 if they're the number 2 seed. However, Miami had more player injuries, missed more player games by far than any other team in the NBA during the regular season. They're now still not even at full strength, and they do get Tyler Hero back. But any thoughts? Let's start with Rob Vino here on this, and any takeaways
from the Game 7?
Yeah, and you can dovetail into Game 1 if you want.
Yeah, I mean, Game 7 was, if you were on the Celtics, it was ruined on the first play of the game when Jason Tatum got hurt. So I think that was a big problem. And the Celtics had multiple problems, right? A lot of them well documented. It's a team that doesn't take a punch very well. It's a team that's very willing to shoot 3-point shots when bad times occur. Miami certainly was the mentally tougher team. The head coaching matchup was talked about a ton, and certainly it played out. Eric Spoelstra is just a better tactician than is Joe Mazzulla. So Boston goes back to the drawing board. To get beat by 19 at home after coming all the way back from 3-0 is disappointing. But, the tip in that they got from Derek White with the 10th of a second left was, kind of fairly lucky as well. Ball could only have bounced one way. So I don't know. I think that the right team won that series. I don't know that you would have necessarily thought Miami was the right team heading in. As we look at the Heat on paper against the Bucks, the Knicks, the Celtics, and now the Nuggets, I think the only team on paper that majority of sports bettors thought it was close was the New York series. Otherwise, you think they're outmatched by Milwaukee, you think they're outmatched by Boston, you think they're out-personneled by Denver. But they're a resilient bunch with a really, really good head coach. They've come from behind an awful lot. So I don't know, John. It was a game I sat back and watched. I didn't have a play in Game 7. And a lot of people who had Miami for the series that were sweating it at that point. But it leads us to where we are tonight.
Oh, it does. And I was one of those people sweating, but I also made the worst bet of my life in terms of value. I bet the Celtics to come back in the series just because, in case they did. So I would have a ticket to give the grandkids so they could put it on the wall and say, look what Granddad did back in the day. But seriously, the odds I calculated before Game 5 was 24-1. And that takes into account that the number 2 seed, how much they scored per game, the probability of them winning 4 games just matched up against Miami regardless of playoffs. I got 8-1. So the books had it really, really priced expensively, if you will. Kevin Thomas, what do you think for the finals or any takeaways from Game 7?
Well, to start with, I thought it would be my Sixers or the Brooklyn Nets. I thought the East was the dominant conference, and then we lost Irving, we lost Durant, we lost the Sixers having any heart at all, because this was the year where they could have dominated. The Celtics, no big man. I mean, Robert Williams III, he's a nice little piece off the bench, but when they got to use him as a starter with Horford, that's just not a recipe for anything great going to happen. Neither of them are great shooters. I mean, Horford every now and then shoot a couple threes, but these guys fade away. So what I take away from Game 7 is Jimmy Butler. I mean, he's the MVP of the Eastern Conference playoffs. More heart than anybody, He was an orphan growing up, so he has a chip on his shoulder. He wants to prove to the world, but the tide switched. The Western Conference is by far the better conference. I look at the Game 7 with the Sixers and the lack of heart. Embiid getting double teamed, the recipe's out on him. Double him, make him anxious, and his shot's gone. Harden laying on the floor while the game's still going on down the court. I mean, at the beginning of the season, honestly, I had the Cavaliers and Nets and Sixers as the top 3. I didn't even have the Celtics up there. I didn't have Miami up there. I just didn't think the players, the bench. I mean, you saw Lowry in the series for Miami Heat. I mean, he's a no-show. I kind of feel bad. I like the Kevin Love signing, but he just kind of disappeared. Caleb Martin took over there. So I don't know. As much as it's interesting, I already gave this out for our futures. I think the Nuggets win this one in 5 games. I got it at plus 190.
Nice. The one thing I will end this part of the show with is Bobby Kravitsky's a good friend of mine. He's a very good writer up in the Boston area, and he passed this little stat on to me that in Game 6 we had 2 teams take 30 or more 3-point attempts. We had one of the teams being Miami who made 48%, so the criteria is more than 45%. We had the Celtics shoot less than 25% of their more than 30 attempts. And Miami lost that game. But guess what the record was prior to that loss? I won't make it dramatic. 89-0 are teams that shoot better than 45%. The opponent shoots 25% or worse, and both teams take 30 or more attempts. So now it's 89-1, and it's 88-2. Yeah, because the Miami covered the spread. Anyway, I just thought that was a worthwhile stat. And I think it also told me, at least with my research, I was riding Miami pretty heavy the whole series, is that they were outplaying Boston. Boston may have won a game here, and they won the one game in dominating fashion, but overall, in the four factors of basketball, Miami was winning all four of them. So it wasn't all that much of a surprise, I guess, but I did get nervous. Like Rob said, he knew I was nervous. All right, let's move on to the current situation in Boston, and my favorite stadium in all the world. It is like a cathedral to me, Fenway Park. I hope I said that right. And I want to hear some of the things that are going on with Melissa's Red Sox, because she's a self-proclaimed addict of the Sox.
I am.
And when they're not doing well, it has to be very tough to keep going to the cupboard and get another drink. I mean, it's just got to be tough.
Yeah.
But do you think they're going to make
the Red Sox PTSD? That's what it is. I have severe PTSD from the Red Sox. Yes. Severe. Yes. Do I think they're going to make the playoffs? Maybe a wild card, and maybe. I don't. Other than that, that's the only hope I have for that.
It's a very tough division. I think we all.
It's that. Mm-hmm. And if they could be consistent with offense and defense, like it was like they were going back and forth. They had the offense, and then they didn't have the defense, and now last couple of games has been like they didn't have any of it. So
it almost sounds like we're talking about the Phillies, Kevin Thomas. Well, here's a question for everyone. We'll start with Kevin and go right around the horn. Which team makes the playoffs, the Red Sox or the Phillies?
It would be I would have to say both of them, actually, because there's wild cards. I will say, though, the Boston, all the teams there will have winning records. It's just Boston will finish probably third. I took the Orioles. I put money on that at the beginning of the season. I just love Hyde and what he's done with that organization. The youth. I mean, they got a farm system, and they don't even have Holiday up even playing yet, and that kid's a monster. So I like the Orioles. I think the Red Sox get in. I think their pitching's coming around. Chris Sale, I mean, I have a lean on him tonight with strikeouts and stuff, and I even took that minus the 1.5 because I think he gets 10 strikeouts with the Reds tonight. He's back to his 2018 form, so I think the Red Sox will be there, but probably as a wild card.
Well, that's music to Melissa's ears for sure.
Yeah.
Ravina, who do you think?
Well, I mean, if Boston makes it, that's history, right? That would be 5 teams from the AL East if we took the standings right now. Boston's a winning team in last place in one division. So they've got a tougher road to travel for sure. They're probably the better team because the Phillies just aren't that good of a team. But that could be turned around in an instant if Trey Turner would earn his money. Guy's hitting 237. You expect Trey Turner to be better than that. He hasn't been better than that. But they still have a lineup full of swing and miss guys. I happen to have been there Monday and Tuesday of last week when they played the Diamondbacks, and you could just see that the Diamondbacks are younger, better hitting. Philly pitching isn't great. Philly bullpen isn't great. There's really nothing great about the Philadelphia Phillies at this point in time. So in a division where you expect the Mets to get a little bit better, I mean, the Mets are obviously below expectations right now, only one game over 500, and a Marlins team where it's kind of weird that Sandy Alcantara hasn't even thrown well yet, and they're still where they are in the standings. God forbid he gets hot as a pitcher. They've got a lot of pitching on that team. So it's definitely tougher for the Phillies, but they have less of a hill to climb. I mean, Boston's got a mighty hill to climb to get there. So I guess by process of elimination, I'd have to say Phillies, although I don't think I don't think they're going to get there.
I wrote a piece today. It's over on rotowire.com about the Phillies' problems. Trey Turner suddenly is swinging with a launch angle that's 4 degrees higher than it was last year, 3 degrees higher than it was for his average of his entire career. And as Melissa, I get analytical with this stuff because I love the game. But as Rob has heard this time and time again, maybe Kevin the first time, when you uppercut, the ball in the back can only meet at one point in the strike zone and be barreled up. When you swing level, such as Bryce Harper is right now with a 5-degree launch angle, you hit line drives. and you hit it to opposite fields because they got rid of the shift now. And the hitters that you see doing well are going with the pitch. Maybe some of them are out of the strike zone, but I think the other inexcusable thing is that the Phillies have a great hitting coach, and they are second in the league in most pitches chased out of the strike zone. Trey Turner is second on the team next to Constellanos, but Constellanos, notoriously for his career, has chased pitches. I mean, he's never seen a first pitch fastball that he didn't want to swing at. But that's his makeup. Trey Turner, I think, is just got to maybe get more patient. But when I saw the numbers, it was alarming. The chase rates and Trey Turner's, especially low and away, he's swinging at that like it's down the middle of the plate. Is there any players like that up in Boston, Melissa, that are?
That's what Raffy Devers has been doing right now. Like has not been disciplined lately. Last night I was like, oh good, he didn't swing at that. I thought he was going to swing at that. But yeah, he's it's been sad because I'm a huge fan of his, and he's been paid a lot of money, and but he has been inconsistent and not disciplined at all at the plate. It's like he's just. I think of him as like a child, like a 5-year-old, because that's just kind of what he reminds me of, and his whole personality and all that. But when you're playing baseball, you need a little more discipline than that. So it may be fun to watch him be silly, but need that discipline at the plate for sure.
Yeah, Rob had a good point there. Boston has to kind of maintain where they are, and if they want to go up the standings, it is a mountain. The Orioles aren't going anywhere, that's for sure. If anybody's going to fade, I guess you would have to say the Rays, maybe. I mean, even that's a hard reach to think that they're going to kind of fall apart. I mean, the Yankees fell apart completely from June 1, basically on to the rest of the season. So it is possible. But I think it's going to be a situation where a team right around 10 games over 500 is probably going to get that third and final spot. And then the National League guys, and I'm just kind of, remembering these things. On Monday, I couldn't believe it. I had to double check it. The St. Louis Cardinals were 8 games under 500 and had the worst record in the National League. And the Cubs were a half game better. That hasn't happened very often. Moreover, the Cubs outscored their opponents by, at that time, 5 runs in total over the games played. So you have a team that outscores their opponents 8 or 9 games under 500, and they have the worst win percentage in the league. And that shows you the parity, I guess, in the National League this year, for what that's worth. One last question about the Sox here. I know it's pretty early for the trade deadline, and we're going to go around the horn here, but we'll start with Melissa on this one. As a fan, is there any player out there that you would think would plug the weaknesses that the Sox have right now, and that would help them make a run for the playoffs, or they just stay put and play with what they got?
I don't know who it should be, but I think we need more in the bullpen. At first, I thought starting pitching, because at first I was like, okay, that's our weakness. And then now it seems to be the bullpen, but I don't know who we could get, who that would be that we would add to that. That's something I was trying to think of today. I was like, who would we add, or who? I definitely think we could get rid of Kluber, and so like, sorry, but that's, I would like to get rid of him but yeah, and eat that money, just eat it, and but yeah. I don't know. I really was trying to think today, and I was just like, God, I just don't know who would be the right fit there. I think when it gets closer to it, I'll definitely, closer to the deadline, I'll be like, yep, that's it. So, but I can't make sense of a lot of the moves that have been made within the off season and all that. So anyway, so I don't know.
I do think Boston's doing much better than expectations, though.
Oh, definitely. Way better.
No doubt
way
there.
better than I thought. Yep. But it's like getting that hope and then boom, taking it back. Like, oh, we're doing good. Then, oh, we're hitting. Yeah, we were hitting like getting tons of hits. And even if we lost, we got a ton of hits. And now our bats are cold. So.
So the temperatures are rising. It's going to be like 95 tomorrow in Philadelphia, and probably even hotter in Washington for that game. Well, it's going to go further. Every 10 degrees is, I think Rob Vino told me this a long time ago. Every 10 degrees in temperature is what, 12 feet extra distance, I think.
You know what? Barometric pressure in physics is out of my league, John. I do one thing well, and I try to stick to my lane. But it is true. I mean, overall, humidity, the ball goes further. Now, when I first learned that 20 some odd years ago, it sounded absolutely backwards. But if you go read the definition, you'll find that it is true. And that's why when the weather gets like it is here on the East Coast, you start playing overs because the ball travels. And as you mentioned earlier, I think a great point about the shift being taken out of the game now. It's made, when I was at the Diamondback Phillies game last Monday night, the Diamondbacks had 5 300 hitters. When's the last time you saw 5 300 hitters in one lineup? And the shift creates that. And teams that put a little bit of pressure on other teams with speed, the pitchers only allowed a couple of moves to first base. There's a pitch clock there. A lot of things working in favor of totals once the weather breaks. And certainly it's broken here on the East Coast. So it'll be something to look forward to down the line too. To Melissa's point about the Red Sox, at the trade deadline, it seems every year, John, people are in search of bullpen help. Teams are fighting over relievers, whether they be mediocre or great. They're fighting over relief help. And without knowing off the top of my head the available free agent relievers that are going to be available at the trade deadline, sometimes it just makes most sense to stack your bullpen with numbers and allow the manager to be able to make moves because he's got bullpen depth. So if you can't get that one guy that is a consistent outgetter, then what you do is you stack it with, as many righties and lefties as you can that are dependable for one or two hitters, and you're able to make pitching switches along the way. So that could be a route to go. But I do agree that in that division where you're facing the Yankees, where you're facing the Orioles, where you're facing the Blue Jays, where you're facing the Rays, whose offense is now as dynamic as anybody's, and pitchers that go 5 innings, 6 innings tops anymore, you got to have multiple relievers so that in a 3-game series, you're not in the third game looking to have to bring a guy in who's already thrown back-to-back days. I mean, it's difficult at that point. So Boston will be among a bunch of teams that will still believe at the deadline that they're involved, and they'll be looking for relief help. And those relievers, they'll go out there and they'll get overpaid, as they always do every year. Right? I mean, there'll be a bidding war and they'll get overpaid.
Rob, I was thinking in my memory, I was in Arlington watching the Texas Rangers take on the Boston Red Sox, and I believe the year was 1997. That year, when the lineup came out on the board, I remember every single Boston player was over 300. And it was 98 degrees, maybe 100. Darren Oliver was pitching. And it was about 14-0 in the end of the second inning, Boston. And the memory I have that game is I was asking my buddy who lives down there, visiting him, a new stadium, on top of the balcony and right, there was an old-time sign that said, "Hit it here and win a suit." And I said to him, has anybody hit it there yet? And he says, "Oh, God, no." And I swear to you, the very next pitch, Mo Vaughn hits the sign.
Nice.
It was a bomb.
That's amazing.
I forget what the final score was, but it was more like Texas, football.
Yeah. You make my day with Mo Vaughn memories. I mean, he's from my hometown, Norwalk, Connecticut, and I actually coached against him when he was in Little League, and we just intentionally walked that kid. He's
huge.
That fence was 200 feet away at that time for 11 and 12-year-olds, and their head coach didn't like it a lot that we would just put him on first base. But, I mean, at the time we called him Maurice. He was not Mo Vaughn yet. He was Maurice Vaughn. And, he was just, you could see at the time, he was better than everybody else on the field and had a pretty good big league career. So we don't get to claim too many people from Norwalk, Connecticut, but we'll claim Mo Vaughn.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Kevin Thomas, what do you think? You can talk about the Phillies if you want, or the Red Sox. Like what you probably lean towards the Phillies here, so you can pick them. But in terms of
Well,
like,
the Red Sox already took our Pivetta, so. But I back to what Rob said about how bad the Phillies look and stuff. We're gonna get Andrew Painter back. He should be back. Saying 2 months maybe. Start getting him through. And Ranger Suarez, we just got him back. Alvarado, I think he just pitched a session, so I'm okay with the pitching as it stands. Maybe consistency at first base. Maybe we get Hall back. He gets some power in that lineup. Maybe move Trey Turner down. He's making that money. I mean, maybe he's got an ego or something. Get him out of the 2-hole. Get Bohm up there. Put Marsh. Marsh has speed. Get one of them up there. Maybe switch it up a little bit there. I like Stott leading off. Last night he didn't do too hot, but I still like him in that leadoff hole because he looks at a lot of pitches. He makes the pitchers throw. But if Turner's going to be swinging for the fence every time, then they need to move him down and get him because they need to get him on the base because he's another fast one. But for pitching now, I'm always hoping that the Giants are out of it so we can go get Webb or Cobb or one of those guys, sign into a big contract because maybe a number 4 starter. I'm not sure Walker's the answer. Maybe move him to 5 or even come in relief when Painter and Suarez are on fire. Maybe have a bullpen session, play like the Rays do. I like Nola. I'm not getting rid of Nola. I like him. Give him the money. Usually it's run support for him, but he's eaten 7 innings, 6, 7 innings. And everyone thought the Phillies were going to score lots of runs. I don't think it's because Reese is out for the season. Maybe it is, but I think you get Hall in there, and that's another big bat. Maybe they just got to get some things. I think down in Washington, Harper always hits the ball well, hard down there. Maybe Trey Turner back in Washington. Maybe that gets him going too. A couple home runs there. So I'm okay with the Phillies right now. I'm sitting with them. I know the Mets and Braves will finish ahead of them. We just need to get in. That's it. Get in and win.
Just like last year.
In and win.
Yeah, what's interesting about the Phillies, real quick, guys, just to point one guy out, Kyle Schwarber in the 5-hole with a 161 average and an on base that's miserable. I heard yesterday a number that's absolutely outrageous. Heading into yesterday's game, the guy had 31 hits and 65 strikeouts. And you just can't have a guy in the 5-hole that's going to sit there and strike out 65 times. And when he hits it, and I saw one last week. I mean, I'm in the right center field seats, and you think those balls are easy to catch. When he hits them, they're going so fast, you don't want to put your hands up to try and catch that ball. But that's a real big RBI position, and you got to come through. And to Kevin's point with Trey Turner and the way the game should be played nowadays with the shift out and trying to bring speed back into the game, Trey Turner, John, you go back a few years when guys in the 2-hole used to be there for one reason, to punch the whole ball through between the first and second base hole, right? And get guys on first and third, and then let Trey Turner cause all kinds of headaches. And he wants to be a home run hitter. And planting him in Citizens Bank Ballpark, I get it. You look at that fence and you think, man, I could hit 40 in this place because it is a bandbox, unless you want to hit it to dead center. But he's going to have to revert back to the type of hitter that he was with Washington, which is get on base, steal. And 1 year when stealing wasn't even in vogue, he was 40-plus steals, right, with the Washington Nationals. Yep. So he needs to, somebody's got – I know hitting coaches don't like to talk to these guys. They want the hitters to approach them before they open up their mouths. And Trey Turner probably is not going to approach anybody. But there's got to be a little shift in his approach at the plate for Philadelphia to take off for sure.
And I really believe is until we see that launch angle on StatCast go back down towards 15, 14 degrees, he's going to continue to struggle. He's not a home run hitter. Let's face it. He's a line drive guy, and line drives, as we teach kids in baseball, and I coached a number of years, a home run's a line drive with a lot of backspin that just happens to clear the fence. If you try to hit one, you're probably not going to hit one. And then you're ending up like Kyle, like Kyle Schwarber and his 20-degree launch angle, which is near tops in the league. Most teams now have gone, with the opposite field now being a big hole now, no shift. A lot of the teams that have good hitters on common sense, I'm going to go to, if they pitch me low and away, I'm going to right center, period. extra base hits on average. There's only 9 teams right now in the league that have not hit more extra base hits per game than last year. And most of those 9 are only fractional. It's not a big number. Tampa Bay, for example, is hitting more than 1 extra base hit per game above and beyond what they hit last year. And that's a lot. That's a ton. And the Phillies need to start doing that. And it's really a shame that you get to the pros and you can't like seek help. I mean, if you're mentally ill, you seek help if you're a professional, right? Or if you have a problem with being some kind of addict, like a Red Sox addict, for example, you would eventually go seek help, right? What's wrong with that? I mean, you can't teach yourself not to, do certain things without somebody saying, "Hey, look at this video. Here's where see the elbow dropping." I mean, I think that's what Turner needs, and about 90% of the NBA players. So, Rob, you can tell I don't like the officiating this year. However, Scott Foster really did a nice job in Game 7.
They put 3 lead officials in that game. I mean, guys that are generally the lead official were all part of that referee crew that night, which they saved it for Game 7, and it was well officiated, and hopefully the finals will be as well. I mean, I don't know, John. It's hard for me to say that even back in 2001, guys weren't complaining about every single call, because really they were. Maybe in that particular game you watched, they weren't. But we're going to see here with these two teams. It's I don't know if you just want to start hopping into this Game 1 tonight or this series or whatever. But if you were going to bet the Denver Nuggets to win the series, the time to do it was like Game 6 of the Boston-Miami series, when Denver was a huge underdog. You had to bet the exact series. If you took took Denver to beat Boston for the finals, I think you were getting about 360, or excuse me, you were getting plus something low, 10. No, I think it was 360 with Boston and only 105 with Miami, because Miami was not the expected team to get there. But you were getting a plus in either case. And now, of course, they wind up playing Miami, and you're not getting a plus. You're staring at, in some locations, minus 460. So that ship has sailed. You're better off trying to predict the correct score as we speak now. I think that series probably makes its way over 5.5 games. It's an interesting series, John, on a lot of standpoints. It's a very different series for Miami. I make it most comparable to when they played Milwaukee. If you look at Milwaukee's front line, when you have Giannis, Bobby Portis, and Brook Lopez, Miami just did not match up. So what did Eric Spoelstra do? He just ran them to death. The scores in that series were incredibly high. The point totals were incredibly high. Miami got through that series. I know Giannis was injured for 1 or 2 of those games, but when he came back, he was scoring, again, 40 points. And that's kind of what Denver brings to the table with Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., and Nikola Jokic. So for them, it's that type of series, except maybe Denver's a better passing team. Denver's a little bit more fluid offensively, but still Milwaukee can score. And on the other hand, for Denver, the series is probably most comparable to the Phoenix series, where Phoenix was too small and had to run in order to beat Denver. Couldn't do either. Denver disposed of them pretty quickly. So, again, it's interesting. You're talking about a 9-point favorite in Game 1. I know that, for years and years, rest versus rust is an answer that's only known after the game is over. You can pound the table for whichever side you think is correct. One, they're rested or they're rusty, but you really don't know until the game is over and the result is in. I never know where to draw the line. I don't know how many games off, how many days off is too many. This one's been a lot for Denver. But, in my estimation, you'd have to have an awful lot of guys go cold for the Denver Nuggets for them to come up dry in this one, point production-wise, because they should be able to score here. And again, Miami the same. We're going to see this is not an Eric Spoelstra versus Joe Mazzulla. This is Eric Spoelstra against Mike Malone, who's a far better head coach, who's a far better tactician than Mazzulla was. And that's a team in a rhythm right now. So we'll see. Miami got through Milwaukee, right? And I think at the start of this, most people thought that Milwaukee was the best team out there. So can they get through Denver? They certainly can. But on paper, do they have the advantage? They really don't, even with Tyler Hero coming back in a couple of games. However, it's a confident team that's tough between the ears. So I think they probably at least 4-6 here. I could see Denver winning 4-2 in this particular series. I know Kevin said earlier, a little bit easier, 4-1. That's any outcome here wouldn't shock me whatsoever, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm actually on Miami tonight, and I had made that decision prior to watching that 2001 game one with the Sixers and the Lakers. The Lakers had won 11 playoff games in a row going into that game one finals, covered all 11. The Sixers had a real war in the Eastern Conference final and had similar rest to what Miami has and similar rest to what the Lakers were just like literally waiting 10 days to play the first game. So I'm just wondering if the rust is going to kind of hurt Denver a little bit. Maybe the bet I should have made was Miami first half, because then Denver, makes the adjustments and takes control of the game, much like we thought Boston would do coming out of the locker. But they, well, I don't know. Here's a question, and Melissa, you can answer this too if you'd like. Would you spend $600 million for Brown and Tatum? I'm just curious. Or would you spend $600 million on Bryce Harper and Trey Turner? I think the latter is a better investment. It's I just don't see the chemistry on that Celtics team, and I actually felt sorry for the head coach because he was thrown into a situation that he probably was not prepared for. He didn't have enough experience, and it really showed. Really showed. But anyway, in game one tonight, I'm going to be on the Heat plus the points, and then we'll have to see, from there. And of course, I could be dead wrong. Kevin Thomas, what do you think for game one tonight?
Well, I do have a premium investment on this, but I will tell you this. We went out to play softball in Denver 6 years ago. It took me 3.5 days, and I didn't even play. I was coaching. It took me 3.5 days to get acclimated to that atmosphere and the headaches. These athletes just celebrated 2 days ago a huge win against Boston. Now they're out there in Denver. I'm sure they've been out there for 2 days now. But they're out there. It's tough. It is going to be tough. And the only way that Miami wins this series is defense. So I would look at the total here. I would take the under, even though I'm reading here about all these 12-0 and the over, the favorite home team. I'm reading this popping up on the screen, but I would definitely go if you're leaning towards Miami, then you have to bet the under because they're not going to outscore Denver. I mean, you look at Denver; they should have won this 2 or 3 years ago when Jamal Murray got hurt. I mean, he was a huge loss for them, and they still showed up and gave everything they had. Jokic, probably the MVP this year, didn't get it. He's on a mission. As Jimmy Butler's on a mission, you can make this all about those two, but it's going to be the players around him. And what Jimmy doesn't do as good as Jokic is distribute that ball. He eats the triple team and finds those open guys. And what the Celtics did was they went to the three ball, came in with White, started shooting up threes. If you're not making threes, you're not going to beat the Heat. But the Heat aren't great perimeter at defending the perimeter. So I think they're going to have to pick their poison, let Jokic score 50 on them, or he's going to throw it out there. You got Murray, you got Brown, you got the bigs. I mean, they got 3 guys that play 6'8" or bigger. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, especially celebrating and flying out to Denver and playing in that atmosphere. So I would look at the under. I saw it at 219. I think someone just posted it's 223. I would definitely take under 223. And my juice is dying. I've tried 7 different plugs now, and everything's coming up that it's going to die soon. So if I played out, I died. I'm sorry.
Well, one thing I will mention to people, I've been kind of preaching on my soapbox, and it's not the first time I have. The live in-game betting has done very, very well this playoff season. So I repeatedly have gone 50, 60, 70% pre-flop. And then I've used the scoring volatility to add to the bet to get up to 100%. Sometimes I didn't have a chance to do it because the team I bet on, the Heat had a couple games. They went start to finish, and the other team barely even had a lead that would have altered your pre-flop bet. But I think that's going to be the case here. The average biggest lead since 2002 in the finals is 11.5 points. So obviously that's going to be a little bit higher for home teams and away teams. Whenever you see a team, and let's see how this goes, and you don't have to bet everything. You can paper trade it and see how it goes. Get used to it. But if you like Denver tonight, and during the first half of action, Miami rips off 10 in a row, unanswered points, that's a chance for you to get more money invested in Denver. These games are not start to finish. It's not like sometimes in the NFL, the team who scores first ends up winning at a pretty high percentage. In the NBA, there's all kinds of swings, and you have to be prepared to take advantage of it. And conversely, if you like Miami, do the same thing. Denver rips off 10, 12 in a row. They usually call timeout. And there's a commercial break. You have plenty of time to get your BetMGM app out and make it. Use pizza money. And I think that'll work really well with this. The pace of play, I think, guys and gals, is going to be faster than it was in the Celtics-Miami game or series. And that lends it to betting in game with the total too. So what is it, 223.5 now, I guess. So in game
it's 218.5, 219, 218.5.
So doing it in my head, I don't have the actual numbers in front of me, but using standard deviations with the volatility, it's just like the same stuff I did on Wall Street with option trading. The numbers are going to be close to, you can expect that like an 80% probability you're going to see 229 at some point. And you're also going to see probably, possibly 209.5, but more likely 211.5. And if you like the over, then wait for that to happen. Get the 211.5 in the first half. And then if you like the under, take advantage of it. That's all I'm trying to say. I guess to finish things off, why don't we go around the room here, and Kevin and Rob, if you have anything big going on tonight that you want to promote, feel free to do that at the respective sites. And Melissa, anything you want to promote, any shows that you're going to be on coming up that we want people to be able to be aware of? Because I know some of your shows are pretty darn popular, and people want to definitely watch them. So how about if I'll start off? What I'm going to do here is look at the prop bets. And what I'm going to do is be the contrarian guy that I am. And we're going to go Jokic. Just want to make sure I have the current number here. PRA, points, rebounds, assists. I'm going to bet under 51.5, currently minus 111 at FanDuel. I agree with the betting the under in this game too, and that maybe that's a little bit high. But I think that's, a good way to bet the under, because if he doesn't go over 51.5, it probably lends itself to a chance to win the under bet too. I like that one. And then three-pointer made is going to be on Max Strus. And let's see where he's at right now. I'm going to bet over 2.5 made three-pointers with him, plus 145 money at BetMGM. Any player prop bet that you think is good and you're getting plus money, I think you ought to maybe put 2 pizzas total bet on that one. And that's what I'm going to go with for player props tonight. Kevin Thomas, what do you got for us?
I do like the under in that, and I do have a premium prop. I'm pretty sure this is it. I'm going to give it out free here for you. As you know, Winning Cappers has built me an affiliate site, Off Center with Kevin Thomas. Go register, great discounts, but all my picks are everywhere. One of my main sites is sportsmemo.com, so you can click over there, and that's where I have my prop bets. So you can purchase my prop bet there. Bruce Brown, over 17.5 points, rebounds, and assists for the Denver Nuggets. In any scenario, Denver Nuggets get a big lead, he gets more minutes. Even if they don't get a big lead, but Miami goes with a smaller lineup, he's going to get more minutes. He's going to be on the floor. He rebounds, he gets a couple assists, and he scores about 12 points. 17.5 is a steal. I rode Caleb Martin for the whole playoffs. I knew Kevin Love got injured. I knew he was done. I rode Caleb Martin. I would take under Caleb Martin tonight. He's going to have some bigs on him tonight. But look at Bruce Brown.
I got him at 17.5 plus 100 at DraftKings, Kevin.
Yeah, I got plus money too. I'm sharp plus money. I mean, when you're looking at that line at 8.5 Heat, and it went to 9, and the public was riding the Heat by about 58%. I would definitely take Nuggets because I'm more of a sharp better. But in the championship games and stuff, the public seems to win a lot more than the sharp bettors historically, as when I bet the game. So there's many angles there you can look at, but I follow that money. I saw 9 earlier on action, went from 8.5 to 9, and it had the public, the sharp money about 80%, but it was almost at 50%. So,
and I do think if for people out there listening, if you like Miami Heat, probably don't take the futures bet. Instead, take the money line in game 1, take the money line in game 2, et cetera, et cetera. Don't roll it over. In other words, don't take $200 and put it on the money line. You win. Don't take the profits plus that. Do $200 every single game. And if they win, you're going to come out more than likely much further ahead than what the market is offering you for the series. Let's turn it over to Melissa here and see what she's got in baseball. I bet you it's something to do with the Red Sox, I bet.
It is. And Rob earlier had said about Chris Sale and over 10 strikeouts, but I had that at 7. So that's what I was thinking. But I've never even bet in my life, honestly. So I might need to start doing that. I don't know. Maybe I need to have you teach me all about that.
Oh, we definitely can.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you take a bet on the futures market now that the Red Sox make it, thinking that if they have a really good June, that the price probably goes lower?
Yeah,
indifferent. That's a tough question.
Yeah. I don't know. The way it's been lately, I've been like, because I really thought, okay, this is going good, and then it keeps flip-flopping, and now it's so I guess we'll just have to see. Like I said, I am ignorant when it comes to betting. I do not get it, and I just never did. I always feel like it was like bad luck.
Good advice, though.
Huh?
Some of your tweets indirectly sometimes give out pretty good leans that you're thinking this and that, and
definitely. No, I have that, but yeah, and I take good advice. So
I'm just glad Scott Foster's not a home plate umpire. Rob Vino, our anchor for the show. The floor is yours. Tell us what you got going on at Wager Talk these days, and your best bet or bets.
Is Angel Hernandez still a home plate umpire, John?
He is.
He is.
That's the NBA's version of, or the MLB's version of Scott Foster, right? Real quick, I'll talk about Wager Talk real quick here. First off, promo. In about 20 minutes, I'll be part of the team on the NBA tip-off show at Wager Talk. So if you move over to wagertalk.com, if you're currently not a member, all you do is drop your email address in there. You'll get instant free access to all the video and written content provided by the handicapping crew over at wagertalk.com. Really, any sport you want to find out about or get analysis of, daily matchups, you can get it over there at wagertalk.com, whether it be golf or NHL or Major League Baseball, whatever's going on nowadays. They cover it over there, wagertalk.com. And again, email address will get it for you for free. I do have a pair of best bet releases on tonight's NBA games, so they are up and available on my homepage over at wagertalk.com. A couple of things I'll hit on real quick here to the question you posed, Melissa, would you take the Red Sox to make the playoffs right now? John, when you look at that division, you can never predict injury, right? But in the case of the Yankees, a Garrett Cole injury sinks the ship. In the case of the Yankees, an Aaron Judge injury sinks the ship. So the Yankees are not a clear-cut deal to go anywhere unless they stay perfectly healthy. Where Toronto's concerned, it looks to me like a Kevin Gausman injury sinks their ship as far as pitching is concerned, because Alek Manoah hasn't been there this year whatsoever, and they have all kinds of issues with that pitching staff. So there's potential for Boston to remain healthy and just keep playing, keep grinding, and move up the standings. So there's always a shot in baseball. We've seen it out of teams. Obviously, the Phillies last year, you pointed to that one. Who thought they were going to be in the World Series at this point last season? I'm going to, the Bruce Brown thing was funny to me. I played Bruce Brown PRA over in game 4 of the Lakers series, the only game where he failed to do so. Only wound up with 6 points, and it was a miserable night for me. I think the number that night was 18.5, so it's chopped down a little bit here to 17.5. But I'm going to go the prop route here for purposes of this show and lead you to Michael Porter Jr., who recorded 3 double-doubles in the last series and has really been a points and rebounding machine as opposed to the numbers that they put up on him. His points and rebounds total, 6 of the last 8 games, he's gone over where they've posted this number tonight, current number 22.5. There is juice that goes with that, minus 130. But Michael Porter Jr. points and rebounds has been over 22.5, 6 of the last 8 playoff games. And in this particular matchup where outside of Bam Adebayo, there's no size on that Miami team. We talked about it earlier, and Michael Porter Jr. should be able to find his way to the glass. And certainly he's one of those guys that can catch fire from the outside. They're giving him an increased volume in shots. Not that he gets Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic type volume, but there are nights when Nikola Jokic is reduced to a passer, which he's fantastic at, and other guys benefit from that. So I would say Michael Porter Jr. tonight, again, for the show, would be a bet that I would give out here. Rebounds, points and rebounds over 22.5. If you can get better than minus 130, go ahead and play it. Always get the best number, but I think he's going to get to 23 or better here tonight.
Awesome stuff, Rob. I'm going to add one more and just give a taste of the NFL because you remember last year I got the Eagles at 28-1. Everybody in Philly hated Jalen Hurts. Couldn't throw the ball more than 20 yards. He was 40-1 to win the MVP. Didn't quite work out, but there's ways to hedge this in the course of a season. And I think I have a similar team this time in the AFC that is looking kind of like the Eagles did last year, and this is Jacksonville Jaguars. So 28-1 to win it, 16-1 to win the AFC championship. I think that is a pretty good bet, in my humble opinion. And of course, guys, Penn State to win the Big Ten plus 550. I mean, you gotta buy pizza money with that, right? 550, come on. You're not going to take Wisconsin at 550, are you? You're going to take Penn State.
Wisconsin's going to throw the ball a little this year, John.
A little bit homer with Penn State, I think.
Yeah.
I have no analytics to back up Penn State, by the way.
Well, you know what? That fan base is split in half. Either you love James Franklin or you want to run him out of town, one or the other. I don't know what side you stand on, but he is a polarizing figure for Penn State alumni and fan base. Wisconsin, they may throw the ball, have more pass attempts this year than they've had in the last 15 years combined. They're going to put it up there a little bit.
And Penn State has that 5-star quarterback starting this year, and
he's been sitting there long enough.
Yeah.
He's got talent. He's got talent.
90 yards in the field house.
Yeah, and that kid Singleton works out right down, right in the school over. Graduated. Same with my daughter. So he's a stud too.
Yeah, they got backs.
Yeah,
they got backs.
Yeah, they do. All right.
Anybody but Ohio State, John.
Oh, I can't agree more. I didn't know Ohio State was in the Big Ten. I thought they were bold enough to go to the SEC. Didn't they move?
Come on.
It would be nice if they did. Anyway, I guess that'll conclude today's show, everyone. I want to thank Melissa for making her debut here. We hope that she'll want to come back and contribute some more. It was great fun. Kevin Thomas, as always, veteran of the show. Rob Vino, the veteran anchor of the show. And I just talk too much. That's about it. But we got to get Tony Finn on the show, Rob. You got to put a bug in his ear. He's whatever he's doing with his parole officer or whatever the case is. He's got to stop doing that and make time for the show.
I think he's lost. He was supposed to be on Wager Talk today and never responded. So I don't know. We might need to do a welfare check on Tony Finn. We'll see.
Maybe I shouldn't even kid about it then either. But he's a Vegas resident and he's very, very knowledgeable. And when he talks, people listen. It's like E.F. Hutton back in the day. Really good professional sports bettor. Anyway, I'll let you guys go. Thanks, everyone, for watching the show. We'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. I'm actually doing a show with Steve Merrill tomorrow of Wager Talk. We're going to be talking financial markets as the same way we do sports betting with sentiment readings, bullish, bearish, and the aftermath of the non-farm payroll report. It comes out at 8:30 a.m. So 2:30 for that, followed by Manny's Irish Pub. Get you set for the weekend. Thanks again for watching, and always remember, bet with your heads and not over it. May all the wins be yours.